What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Matt is going to be joining me in just a moment to talk about the 2023 NFL Draft and the Beam team, Sacramento Kings, up 2-0 against the Golden State Warriors. I know I promised a football podcast, but we have to do it. We have to. It's the Sacramento Kings. It's awesome, man. Before we get started, I did want to mention that today's episode is mostly about gambling and how we view the 2023 NFL draft through a gambling lens and what the odds tell us about what might happen in the first round of the NFL draft coming up in a couple weeks. The easy access that we have to gambling nowadays, where you could do it from your phone, super easy. You just deposit from your debit card, bet right off your phone, win, lose money, live betting. It's fun. I enjoy it, but it is a very serious problem for some. So if you are someone who feels like you might need help, don't be embarrassed. Go get the help you need. The national helpline for gambling addiction, the phone number is 1-800-522-4700. And there are lots of awesome resources in almost every state where sports betting is legal. So, Matt and I are based in Michigan, but we have listeners all over the country. So that national helpline is out there for you guys. 1-800-GAMBLER in Michigan. Don't be afraid to go get the help you need. So Matt is going to be here in just a moment. We're going to get started by talking about the Kings. So if you are here for the NFL draft gambling stuff, you could skip ahead a little bit if you want to, or you can just hang out with us and listen to me fangirl about the Kings, because this is like the height of my basketball fandom since I was probably 10 or 11 years old. So it's going to be a fun episode. Let's go. All right, Matt is here. Matt, are you sitting down right now?
I am.
Okay, good, because I need to tell you something. It might be shocking to you. You might not be prepared for this, but I felt like I should share this with you in person. Matt, the Sacramento Kings have a 2-0 lead on the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. That's a real sentence. That is not fictional.
It is the year of our Lord 2023, and the Sacramento Kings, the team that has not made the playoffs in 16 long-ass seasons, has not only made the playoffs, they have defeated the Warriors twice in a row at home. Are you shocked? I feel like everybody's like beside themselves today.
After game one, I think honestly that game really kind of put things in perspective. For me, at least, like a lot of the key players, other than Fox, for that Sacramento team, did not do shit in that game, and they still pulled it out. And like we talked about it earlier, that this Warriors team was not a good team all year long. So to really expect them to suddenly come back and be the Warriors that we all know, like it just that was never going to happen. And yes, like Steph Curry, the fear is that he's going to be Steph Curry and be a one-man wrecking crew. But this Kings team can score with any other team in the NBA. So I don't even know that that's enough anymore for this Warriors team.
Yeah, Steph Curry was Steph Curry for large portions of game one. A little bit of a rougher night last night, but still pretty good game for him. I thought it was so funny driving around today. So I woke up this morning and just wanted like every single basketball podcast. I was like, I have to drive like 45 minutes to work. I got to be at the office all day and then drive back. Give me every single basketball podcast. I want to listen to them all. I cannot get enough about hearing about the Kings. And I heard very, very little about the Kings today because the coverage of this series is all about the Warriors.
Yep.
It's all about what's wrong with the Warriors. And on like a huge portion of that is that they have been the team of the last 10 years or
Yeah.
so. Like they've been dominant. They got this little mini
Yeah,
dynasty
close to
going.
it.
The other part of it, though, is I feel like almost every basketball analyst in some form or another picked the Warriors to beat the Kings, conveniently forgetting that the Kings are a better basketball team than the Warriors are.
Yeah.
And they're all embarrassed. And they're all trying to cover
Yeah.
for themselves. And they're like, oh, the Warriors are losing because of this, this, and this. And guess what? The Warriors are down 2-0 because they're playing a better basketball team. Full stop. The Kings are a better basketball team than the Warriors.
Well, and you could see the bias even in like a really important moment in that broadcast. Draymond Green thought it was acceptable to stomp on Sabonis's chest. The announcer immediately says, yeah, he stomps on his chest, but look, he grabs his leg. Look, first of all, the grab of his leg was not like a firm grasp. The dude fell and was grabbing onto something. And then Draymond picks his foot up and he doesn't like fall forward. He just straight up stomps down onto his chest. This is not someone who's doing this for the first time. This is like the 6th or 7th episode of Draymond doing something that is way outside the bounds of like basketball players getting in their emotions.
Yeah, he probably should be suspended for at least a game, possibly more. And maybe this is like a kind of an out there take, but as a Kings fan, I don't want Draymond to be suspended. One, because I want to beat his ass. They've been kicking his ass up and down the court for 2 games. I want to keep seeing it. 2, I want no excuses from these loser bandwagon Warrior fans after the series is over and the Kings have eliminated them. I want nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. I want the people from San Francisco to have to admit that the Kings are a better basketball team than the Warriors. And that's it. So I don't want Draymond out. I want him to play game 3.
I mean, if you get that, you might just get the sweep.
You just tell I'm like totally I am so like up here with this Kings team. I'm on cloud 9. I promised the fans that we would have an NFL draft gambling show today. And I texted you and I was like, Matt, we have to start with the Kings. We have to. I can't not.
Yeah, no, I knew that was going to happen way before you said anything about it.
Yeah, I feel like, and I hope for you that you experience this with the Lions when we get into NFL season.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how quickly you can talk yourself into your favorite team potentially winning a championship. Because
I hope springs eternal for Lions fans. So.
I know. Well, we've been in the same boat for so long. Me being a Kings fan and you being a Lions fan.
Mm-hmm.
I did a podcast on Saturday. I dropped like an NBA podcast just to go over what my favorite series were and who I was picking. I picked the Kings in 7. I was like, the analytical side of me is telling me I shouldn't bet against Steph Curry and the Warriors probably win this one in 6. But I was like, God, I can't pick against this team after what we've been through this season. So I'm going Kings in 7. We won 1 game, game 1. And I'm like, oh man. I was like, the Grizzlies lost game 1. Ja Morant hurt his hand. We might like get the Lakers. I don't really believe in Denver as a contender. Giannis just hurt his back. Like, oh man, maybe the Kings can do this thing. And you know what? For one time in my life, I'm just letting myself be completely irrational.
Yeah.
With it. Like, we're on a podcast. I should be spouting off like good sports takes and being like, well, the Kings are playing well and they're beating the Warriors because of X, Y, and Z, and these adjustments will be made. And instead of that, I'm just keeping my fan hat on and I'm like, we're just going to win the fucking championship. Here we go. NBA champions, baby. Let's go.
hey, once you're in the dance, like you're there to have a shot. So that's kind of the belief that you have to have.
Yeah, I'm gonna regret saying this, but I think the Warriors are actually a good matchup for the Kings. The thing about the Kings is that they were so good on offense this year and just horrible on defense during the regular season. But their biggest weakness on defense is that they don't have a rim protector and that their wings aren't phenomenal defenders.
Yeah.
The Warriors, like to borrow a phrase from football, the Warriors run more of like a horizontal offense. It's not necessarily
Mhm.
like vertical. We're going to attack the rim and get into the paint and do all this stuff. And it kind of plays to the Kings' strength, especially with Woodson coaching them up and kind of game planning against what the Warriors do, since he's so familiar with it from coaching for the Warriors for so
Yep.
long. That it's kind of a better matchup for them than the next round will be, whether it's Memphis or whether it's LA. That's going to be a tougher matchup for them defensively. But man, I it's been awesome. Game 1 was my favorite basketball game I've ever watched. I think it was just like relieving 16 years of pressure and tension and seeing the Kings do all of the things that they haven't done for 20 years, however long it's been since they were actually good. And I wanted to give props to De'Aaron Fox real quick, too,
Yeah, you
because
need to.
holy shit, has he been incredible in the first 2 games of the series. It's not just like he's out there scoring and like having good games. The De'Aaron Fox's leadership through the early part of this series has been off the charts. And I honestly did not know that he had this in him. I questioned this about him, but they get down at halftime in game 1 and they come out and it's just like Fox is like, I am not letting us lose this game. It was that pure like will, like I can take these guys. I am not letting my team lose this game. Scores
Yeah.
29 in the second half. And then the post game press conference of just being like, these fans deserve this and they've been through so much and we're just happy to be able to like deliver this for them and blah blah blah. The just like the leadership on and off the court for him has just been off the charts in a way that I didn't know was possible for him, to be honest. And I think that's the thing I've been most impressed by through the early part of this series so far.
You were out on him like a couple years ago. And that's not a
Couple
shot
of
at
years ago, I was off. I was out on him last year.
yeah. And that's not even like a shot at like your analysis of him at that point in time because your critiques were fair. And I think it just goes to show like how far he's come this year. I think more than anything, just becoming more of an adult. Yeah.
If you go back to last year's episode where we talked about Tyrese Halliburton being traded for Sabonis,
Yeah.
I've re-listened to that and I stand by exactly what I said about De'Aaron Fox and about the trade and about everything.
Mhm.
I don't think I was necessarily wrong. I think I laid out very valid concerns about his game and this team's game. And what they did this offseason was really they went out and filled all of the holes that I mentioned. I was like, you need shooters around these guys, you need 3-and-D defenders, you need all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. They go out, they improve the roster tremendously
Mhm.
with pickups like Herter and Monk and drafting Keegan Murray. And then Fox is, it's like the same thing we said about Jason Tatum last year is like, we're like, he's not top 10 yet. Here's what he needs to do to get top 10.
Mhm.
He did it. And then we came back this year and we're like, yeah, he's a top 10 guy now.
Yeah.
I laid out very valid concerns with Fox. He improved his game and addressed like a lot of the things that were concerning me. And he's come back. He's a better player and a much better leader. So,
Mhm.
if people want to give me the L on that one, I'll take it. But I think I laid out a very clear case for what he needed to do, and then he just went and did it.
The part that's remarkable about this is that you don't see a lot of these guys make jumps of that kind of magnitude in areas like intangibles.
Yeah, to be
Good
fair,
on him.
like he had the leadership qualities at Kentucky too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was ecstatic when we drafted
Yeah.
him. He was my favorite
Yeah.
player. And then just over time and like the defense not being good, and then to rug pull the fans with the crypto shit last year, and like there's so much going on with him
Yeah.
that it was fair to have criticism. And like people, Kings fans now are coming back at me and they're being like, basically giving me L's all over the place on Twitter for like old comments and stuff like that. I'm like, that's fine. That's perfectly fair. I am not the enemy. I've been a Kings fan for 32 years at this point.
Yeah.
Uh, and I had valid concerns, but and I wasn't a big fan of the Sabonis Halliburton trade, and I still have my fears about Sabonis not resigning.
Yeah.
But the one thing I've always been in on is that Monty McNair was going to be an awesome GM. And I was super excited about it when we hired him. And he's done a great job putting the team together. Man, like this is just a good basketball team. And it's just such a weird thing to say about the Sacramento Kings.
I can empathize with that like weird, unfamiliar feeling about good things happening.
Well, it's like even in game right now, like the Kings have not played their best basketball yet in this series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that should really be the scariest if you're a Golden State Warriors fan. The Kings have had large stretches in both games where they were just flat out bad. 9 turnovers in the first quarter yesterday, including like just blatant brain farts.
Yeah.
And it is so hard as a fan of a team who is a historical failure. And I know you'll know exactly how this feels. It's just so hard to believe that like, I was like, oh man, 9 turnovers in the first quarter. There's a large part of me that's just like, God, we're gonna lose this game. Like we're playing like shit. We're not ready for this. It's the Warriors. They're gonna come back and beat our ass. And just like you got to keep the faith and just be like, listen, this team's different. The culture's different. The leadership's different. Man, like Woodson has just been incredible, and he's just pulling all the right levers right now.
Yeah.
And even if we don't win another game in the series, like if Golden State wins the next 4 and it turns out that like it was just here comes Steph, I am infinitely proud of this team and the franchise and their ability to turn things around. So this has been the most fun basketball season ever, and every one of these playoff games is just such a joy to watch right now. It's absolutely incredible. And my hope for you, my friend, is that you experience this year with the Lions, because I think you're going to be a team that's kind of on the same path.
With the Lions being predicted to win the NFC North, like there's already Lions fans out there who are like talking Super Bowl as like that's the outcome that they're looking for this year. Look, I mean that should be every team's goal every year, right? Like in a vacuum. But man, like if you want to enjoy the year, like maybe pump the brakes. let other people who are not Lions fans have that conversation and just show up to enjoy the ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, he says that now.
Oh yeah, no, after week 1, I'm in.
I was gonna give you 4 weeks. I was gonna be like, just wait till the Lions start 3-1, and Matt's here wearing like Lions sunglasses and a shirt and like a bandana, and he's like, "We're going to the Super Bowl."
Get myself a lion cane.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll just drink blue Kool-Aid every week on the podcast.
Oh yeah, that's all this season's gonna be.
Yeah, I will say, so like obviously I'm a Patriots fan, but all of my best friends are Lions fans. You are, and all my buddies who live in Metro Detroit, and my one buddy who lives in Brooklyn, and the other one that lives in San Diego, they're all huge Lions fans. So as long as they're not playing the Patriots, I root for them. And I just think it would be super fun to live where I live and have the Lions be good.
Oh yeah.
Because it'll be all anybody's talking about. It'll be super hype. Like I imagine living in Sacramento right now.
Yeah.
Like how fun that must be. I am looking forward to that if and when the Lions are
Mhm.
good this year because I live just north of Detroit and the buzz around here would just be insane.
Denver's coming to town this year, so you know Trent's already said like we have to go to that game, so it's non-negotiable.
I am actually kind of surprised Trent wants to spend money to watch the Broncos.
I don't think you realize how much of a glutton for punishment he is.
Mm. I actually like this is off topic, but I actually do think the Broncos will be better this year with Sean Payton and maybe
Hard for them to not be.
that's the thing. But I don't think I would pay money to go see them at this point. Poor Trent. I mean, but you know what'll probably happen is I'll probably end up going with you guys or something.
Yep.
So I probably will end up spending money
I
to see
will
the
pay money
Broncos.
to see them lose.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what? I'll just justify it as I'm paying money to see the Lions,
Yeah.
not the Broncos. But uh, putting a bow on the Kings thing real fast. I already picked them to win this series. I'm
Yeah.
staying by that. Do you think the Warriors are going to come back, or are you riding with the Kings?
Yeah, no, I'm fully on board the Kings wagon here and maxing the Warriors out at two wins on this. And that's me being very generous and thinking like those are just two games where maybe Steph goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah, I think if we split one of these next two in Golden State, that we can get this done in five. If not, like if Golden State takes these two and it's 2-2, I'm still probably going to go seven, just out of respect for Steph. I just respect him
Yeah.
too much. But what I've seen on the court so far is just that this should be like a 5-game series, honestly. So we're both on the Kings, but let's do what we came here to do and
Yes.
what the fans are waiting for. And let's talk about the 2023 NFL draft. So we are going to look at this through a different lens today, and that is the lens of gambling. There is a lot of money to be made on the NFL draft, as we showed you guys last year. The first two picks of Walker and then Hutchinson going second were like just cash cows for us. I think this year is more difficult for a couple reasons. I don't think that there's like some big obvious thing in the draft that you can exploit to make money. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of questions, especially because almost all the bets that are available to you are first round things.
Yep.
We're 2 weeks out, we're a week and a half out from the draft. And do you have any idea how the first three picks are going to go?
But not in the slightest.
No.
I mean, I'm pretty confident pick one's gonna be Bryce. Even that, like, it's hard to ignore some of the talk about Stroud when they originally traded up. So the Bryce Young stuff could be a smokescreen. It's just which I never understand this. Once a team has the first pick and they intend to use it, what is the purpose of using smokescreens? There's nothing to gain.
We talked about this last year with the Jags, where I was like, just
Yeah.
like, why all the intrigue? Just tell us who you're picking. Like, you already know, right? You don't
Yeah.
like, you've
This
been
is
on the
like
clock forever.
the one thing that I actually miss about the old model before there was a rookie scale because teams would make that decision and then they would just start negotiating the contracts. And then you knew. Like
Yeah, I do think there's an element of, hey, we're first on the clock and everybody's talking about us, and
yep.
you're the team that everybody's talking about for weeks. And for the Panthers, it's
Yeah.
been since you made the trade, there's been so much intrigue around them about who they're going to pick. It's been, oh, it's
Yeah.
they traded up for Stroud. Oh no, they like Bryce. Like, well, it might be Richardson. And
Yeah.
the Panthers are just in the news cycle over and over and over again. So I think there's an element of that. But also it's just like I think GMs are just secretive by nature because literally any single piece of information you give out can eventually be used against you in that
Right.
field. And it's like, you don't want to give away anything, not a single inch in football. So, like, why? Why do I have to tell you who I'm drafting? You can wait and find out on Thursday next week.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
It is. No, it
Like,
is because I want to know too. Just like, God damn it, let's start picking
yeah,
players.
right. Because like, if it is Bryce Young first, I don't know that we've necessarily talked about it on air, but I think you and I are pretty confident CJ Stroud is not going to Houston.
No, well, like, so let's talk about this. Let's have this conversation now
Yeah.
because Vegas agrees with you.
Mhm.
Bryce Young's odds are minus 1,400 to go first right now. So, and by the way, before we really start diving into these bets, we're on DraftKings Sportsbook. It
Yeah.
is Tuesday, the 18th. This podcast is going to come out Wednesday, the 19th. And I guarantee you, in the 12 hours that I'm going to sleep and then edit this podcast and put it out, these odds are going to be completely different.
Yeah.
So the odds have changed. I did notes for this yesterday and started picking out bets I liked yesterday. The odds changed when I looked at it again this morning. And then now that I have the sports book pulled back up, the odds have changed again. So this is a very, very fluid situation. But what we're looking at right now, Bryce Young is minus 1,400 to go first,
Yep.
which is overwhelmingly Vegas
Yeah.
believes that he's going to be the first round. He's going to be the first pick overall. Like they're
Which,
basically at the point where there's no question.
yeah, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I think we both agree that that's the right pick for
Mhm.
Carolina, right? We're both in on Bryce. Pick two is interesting because CJ Stroud was the favorite until this week.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at Will Anderson being the favorite at plus 150. Tyree Wilson has moved up to second in odds at plus 250.
Hmm.
Will Levis has pulled ahead of CJ Stroud at plus 250, and then Stroud is fourth at plus 275. So I think if you can figure out who's going to go second, that there's a lot of value here because everybody is
Yeah.
plus money. But good luck figuring that out.
Yeah. That's the crapshoot. And if you're sitting there wondering like why everyone is so out on CJ Stroud going to Houston, he was asked what quarterbacks he looked up to, and the ones that he ran off were Michael Vick and Deshaun Watson. And he also has the same agent as Deshaun Watson. I am gonna go out on a limb and say that the ownership there, they probably have a bit of an axe to grind against anyone who associates with Deshaun Watson, given how lengthy that entire debacle was. Uh, Even before the stuff about the massage therapist came out. So I don't think they want anything to do with any of that.
That's a really good point. And I didn't know they had the same agent. So
Yeah.
the way that I read these odds, Houston's out on Stroud,
Yep.
right?
Let's also keep in mind if they don't take a quarterback this year, they're gonna suck. And the top quarterback heading into next year is Caleb Williams, which every NFL GM is in fucking love with.
And me. I also
Yes.
love Caleb Williams. Yeah, and in the consolation prize for the Caleb Williams thing is going to be Drake May, who
Yeah.
is also excellent.
Yeah.
But the way
At
I
this time.
at this time, yeah, we'll see when we get here next year and we've picked these guys apart to death. Or just like,
Right.
Drake May, I don't know. The way I read the odds for the second pick right now is that Houston is looking to trade that pick away because they don't want Stroud. And that if they can't find a trade that they like, they're going to take an edge.
Yeah.
because the odds are in the favor of them taking Anderson or Tyree Wilson. And the
Hmm.
reason I think that Levis is third in odds is because one of the likely trade partners for the Texans, I don't know why I forgot that the Texans are one of the likely trade partners for the Texans is the Colts. And people are connecting the Colts to Will Levis. Um, so that's how I read that. I'm not confident enough to bet on this to say what happens. My guess is that Houston stays in that pick to see if Carolina does take Stroud so that they could grab Bryce Young. And that if Bryce Young does end up being the first pick, then they trade that away and try to get as much as they can and let somebody else come up and take a quarterback.
I mean, I know that Houston defense needs dudes. It needs talent desperately, but I think that if you take a step back and take off the rose-colored goggles when you're looking at whatever defensive talent that you're really in love with, probably realize if you can pick up the extra picks, that is going to do that defense a lot more good, especially if you're talking about moving back to 4 or 7 or 6 or I don't. Not that I think Detroit's going up to 2, but yeah, I just the extra picks are so huge in that rebuild.
Yep. Very valuable. If you do believe that Stroud is going to be the first round pick and you don't believe all the hype and all the smoke and mirrors, you can get CJ Stroud to go first overall at plus 700 and Bryce Young to go second overall at plus 950.
Yeah,
So, like, if you think that's what's going to happen, that's a nice little payday for you if you hit those two. So, I am not brave enough to pick who's going to go second and bet money on it right now. Um, but there are some other quarterback bets that I like. So the first one, these two are kind of related. The first one is for Will Levis to go over pick 6.5. And that's plus 185 right now.
mm-hmm.
There have been multiple reports that there are very few teams who have a first round grade on Levis. It's like over half the teams don't even have a first round grade on him. You're seeing in mocks now that he's actually starting to fall further back and get like
Mm-hmm.
instead of being picked third overall, he's like 11th or 12th or I think he's trending in the wrong direction right now. And I don't think like if the Colts don't pick him at 4 or like the Colts don't trade up to 2 to get him, he could fall like really far.
Yep.
Really like end of the first round. It wouldn't be 100% shocking to me if he was like a late first round pick.
I look at it as he either ends up going to the Colts or he's going to slide ways. Maybe the Seahawks just because he's got some qualities that like Pete Carroll kind of likes, but they spent money on both of their quarterbacks this offseason. I don't think they're taking quarterback, no matter who's there, unless
I,
it's Bryce Young.
yeah. I think the only quarterback I could see Seattle taking is Anthony Richardson and being like,
I
he
I
needs to
don't
develop.
think Pete
And
Carroll goes for that.
yeah, I don't know that he loves that
I
either, but like if they
he's
were going to pick
you
one,
got to think about how old he is. Like I don't know that he wants to take a whole year to groom a guy. And that's not to say that like Richardson couldn't be on the field year one, but like to get him to the point where Pete Carroll would want his quarterback to be as the starting quarterback, like you're probably talking about at least a year because really he's only got 1 year of college experience under his belt. So it's going to take a minute.
so the other bet I have, I said that's kind of tied to the Levis going over 6.5. I also like the draft matchup bet where it gives you two players and you pick which one gets drafted first. Uh,
Hmm.
Anthony Richardson to go before Will Levis is plus 170. So
Yeah.
I have Will Levis as the fourth best quarterback on my board. You have him as the fourth best quarterback on the board. I
Hmm.
I think Richardson is just going to be too intriguing for someone. Whether it's the Raiders at 7 or like I know you don't think the Seahawks are an option, but I could kind of see it. I could also just see the Colts just being like, listen, we like Richardson more than Levis, or like,
Yeah.
if Bryce Young goes first, Houston takes an edge. The Cardinals, God knows what the Cardinals are going to do. Maybe they take another edge and the Colts have their pick. Maybe they take Stroud and then it's Richardson and Levis. And like the report came out about Levis not having a first round grade on a lot of people's boards, but like they kind of said the same thing about Richardson. So
Yeah.
I think both of them could end up being later first round picks than people expect.
Hmm.
But I like the upside of
Yeah.
Richardson and the physical profile. And I think someone just gets too intrigued by that and
Yeah.
they don't let him fall too far.
Someone's gonna fall, and it very well could be one of the quarterbacks that people really didn't expect. It could be Richardson. It could be Stroud. I think everyone kind of thinks that if one does fall, it's going to be Levis. It wasn't really all that long ago that, like, pretty much the entire draft community was in love with Justin Fields, and he slipped a lot further than he was expected. I don't think anyone really. There was not a ton of the draft community that thought he was going to get past two. Like it happens. They Evaluating a quarterback is complicated, and I think a lot of times people talk circles around themselves and talk them out of guys that are good and talk them into guys that are not good. So yeah, just expect chaos.
Yeah. I just, like you said, if one guy's going to fall, I think it is Levis. So, I mean, even if he just falls down to 7 and the Raiders take him, you win the over 6.5 bet.
Yeah.
We know the Lions aren't going to take him. The Cardinals probably aren't going to take him. I don't think Seattle takes him either. So if he gets past the Colts, I
Okay.
think you win.
Yeah.
And then Richardson, just like I said this about Tariq Woolen last year, is that someone is just going to be like, oh my God, the measurables. And they're going to take him. And it's probably going to be earlier than people think. The next group of bets that I liked are the first round position totals. You got to keep in mind that there are only 31 first round picks this year because the
Yeah.
Dolphins got caught tampering with Brady, which is still the funniest thing in the world to me. So they do not have a first round pick. So when you're looking at the
Spice that up.
numbers, just remember there's 31 instead of 32. The first one I really liked, and I think Matt's gonna flip his shit over this. Uh, over 1.5 running backs taken in the first round. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
saying
I hear you. I don't think you're necessarily off base. Um, I just God, it's such a bad idea.
it is, but people do it every year.
Yep.
And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Bijan Robinson is going in the first round this
Oh
year.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
just a
mean,
matter of where.
it's not what I want, but like yeah, if like a team like the Lions that has plugged up pretty much all of their real cavernous holes, yeah, you can take Bijan Robinson at 18 and it's not like a terrible team building decision. I don't know if it's necessarily the best allocation of resources, but like it certainly makes that running game scary. There's
It
a number of other teams later in the first round where like it makes some sense.
yeah,
I
it's not the best
I
allocation of resources. Let me fix that for you. You said
yeah,
you don't know. Let me tell you, it's not.
yeah, no. That being said, if you kind of look at the financial situation, especially with Dalvin Cook for the Vikings, making sure you nail Bijan Robinson makes a lot of sense. Um,
Yeah.
I
So
wouldn't do it, but I can understand why they would.
yeah. So Bajan is going to go in the first round. He's plus 125 to go in the top 10, which is like a little bit less than a
Jesus.
coin flip. So like it is very possible that he goes early in the first round.
Yeah.
And if he does, I think a lot of those teams that you mentioned who could want a running back,
Yep.
you think about like the Chargers are in a bad position with Eckler right now.
Yep.
Dallas may be looking for another running back to pair with Tony Pollard. Like they've been connected to
Mhm.
Robinson. You got Minnesota, who's got the Cook thing going on. You got Buffalo,
Yeah.
who's still trying to figure that out. Cincy, who's got weird stuff with Joe Mixon,
I still wouldn't put it past Washington.
or Washington. I think there are a lot of places that potentially make sense for someone like Jamar Gibbs,
Yeah.
who is drawing lofty comparisons. I've seen multiple
Mhm.
writers compare him to Jamal Charles. And like, if you believe that he's
High
Jamal
praise.
Charles, like, yeah, that might actually be worth a first round pick if you think you're getting Jamal
Yeah.
Charles.
But you had best come correct.
Yeah. Um, or like someone like Zach Charbonnet is getting a lot of
Yeah.
hype right now. There like we talked about this last week. It's a lit running back class.
Yeah.
And all I gotta do to hit this bet at plus 400 is think that one team is gonna do something stupid. One team, because I already know Bajan is going in the first beyond a shadow of a doubt. I need one team to do
Yeah.
something dumb. I like those odds.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
My second one is I mentioned last week, I was like, the over under for receivers in the first round
Mhm.
is going to be 4.5. It opened at 4.5 and it's moved down to 3.5
Yeah.
right now. So I like over 3.5 receivers at minus
Yeah.
190. Minus 190 is not great odds. Um,
Mhm.
if you're feeling confident, you can go over to FanDuel and get over 4.5 receivers at 320 plus 320 right now if you want to boost those odds. We're staying on DraftKings. We're just going to do the 3.5 to be safe
Yeah.
and hit the bet. Just like hit a layup, get some money back. Every year I like to look at who was invited to the draft because they don't invite guys unless they're going to go in the first round. They're not going to like invite you night one and then you're like, you got to come back for night two.
I mean, it's happened. It definitely, it's definitely happened. Uh, I mean, last year it literally just happened with like pretty much all the quarterbacks but Pickett.
It
Um,
it's certainly possible, but
but that being said, like if someone's invited that you're like, wait, what? Yeah, there's probably something going on there.
oh yeah, we're gonna get to him in a minute because
Yeah.
there was a when we read through the list together the other day, there was definitely a wait what moment. But there's 17 prospects who are gonna attend the first round of the draft. Out of the 17, three are receivers. Uh, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who we talked about last week, Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers are all coming to the draft. Uh,
Yeah.
Notably, Quentin Johnston was not invited to the draft. And the thought is that he may actually be a day
Yeah.
two prospect now, which is insane to go from where he was to,
Yeah.
not being a first round pick. But so assuming that those three guys are invited because they're going to be first round picks, all I have to do to hit this bet is have one of like Downs, Johnston, Hyatt, Tillman go in the first round to hit this.
Yeah.
In a league that's desperate for receivers, that just came off of a free agency class that was really bad at receiver.
Yeah.
So, like, if I had to pick one of those guys, I think my favorite to go in the first round is Jalen Hyatt right now. I'm not saying I would do it. I'm just saying that when you have a guy who has that type of big play ability, they get intriguing pretty quick in the NFL.
Yeah. It's just he didn't run routes all year. He didn't have to run a route.
Can only run a straight line.
Like that deep choice is like you don't have to run a route. You don't have to make reads. It's just you're either open or you're not. Like
Yeah, I mean, I think that he could go in the first round as a big play
yeah.
threat. Josh Downs is getting a lot of hype right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could. Cedric Tillman's name has been thrown out there.
Yeah.
Not impossible that Quentin Johnston is still going to go in the first round as well.
We were talking via text the other day about how perplexing of a prospect he is because the things that he's good at are not the things that you would think he's good at based on his body type.
And the things he's not good at are the things that you probably feel like he should be good at
because of his body type.
It's very weird. But after the Michigan game in the college football playoffs, he was like first receiver off the board. He was top 12 pick, basically. And now it's like he's not invited to the draft. He might not be a day one guy. It's so weird. Like someone's either going to get a bust or a steal.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's going to be interesting. But the one of the things that we made a bunch of money on last year was that they put odds out on guys to go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like Lewis Seen, we had Daxton Hill, we had George Karlaftis. Like we had a bunch of guys at the bottom of the draft last year who all went in the first. That's not out yet.
Yeah.
If they're going to put it out, I think they lost their asses on it last year, and so they're not going to do it. But if that does come out, I like Jalen Hyatt as a first round pick. I'm going to guess that he'll be plus money odds. I like one of my guys from last week, Thule, the edge from USC. I like him as a potential late first round pick. And then if the odds come out and you can get Keon White, you have to go smash whatever Keon White's odds are to go in the first round. You have to do it because Matt and I were looking through the list of the 17 prospects who are invited to the draft this year.
Yeah.
And it's all guys that you've seen in mocks. It's all guys you expect. It's Will Anderson, Brian Branch, Jalen Carter, Joey Porter Jr., all the quarterbacks, Bijan, whatever. And then Keon White, edge from Georgia Tech, is on there.
Yep.
Someone that I don't think any draft podcast has talked about.
Like I said, if there's just kind of like a random one sprinkled in there, pay attention to that because that's not an accident. That's not just throwing someone a bone because that ain't cheap to get him there.
The Raiders going to pick him at 7. That's going to be the pick where everybody's like, "What? Wait, what? Who?"
Next year's virtual background.
Beautiful. Back to draft matchups. I like offensive lineman Peter Skoronski to be drafted before Paris Johnson. That's plus 110. Skoronski is minus 125 to go in the top 10, and Paris Johnson is plus 105 to go in the top 10. So basically what they're saying is like, we favor Skoronski to go in the top 10, but it's plus money odds if he goes before Paris Johnson, who's not supposed to go in the top 10. It just seems like something they missed. Like Skoronski should not be plus 110 to go before Johnson.
Right.
If he's favored to go ahead of him. Like, I feel like that's like an easy value thing. I also just think we have no idea what order the tackles are going to go in.
Nope.
You know, you look at like the two guys I just mentioned. You also have Darnell Wright, who you talked about last week. I don't hate Darnell Wright to be the first tackle taken at plus 600.
No, I don't hate it. If if there's a team that just like really falls in love with him, I mean, I definitely see him as more of like your road grading right tackle. Not that you can't take that in like the top 10 because obviously the Lions did and it's worked out extremely well. It's just so hard to figure out where these GM's heads are at as to like what they're going to value because I could totally see him being worth it. And like even if you don't love him playing right tackle year one, he's going to be a dominant guard. So,
I mean, would you rather have like a right guard, right tackle type of player that you know is going to be good,
yeah,
or a guy at left tackle who's like 50-50?
yeah,
I think that's kind of what we're looking at. So the tackles, I just, there's four of them who are probably going to be top 18, top 20 picks. And I don't think anybody has any idea what order they're going to go in. So if you wanted to bet any of them to go first, I wouldn't kill you.
yeah.
The other bets I liked, Richardson as the second quarterback off the board is plus 380. The one I really like right now, CJ Stroud as the third quarterback off the board is
Mhm.
plus 390. Bryce is going to go first, and then potentially either Richardson or Levis could go. I think that kind of no matter what, Stroud is going to be the third guy off the board.
Yeah.
For plus 390, I like that one.
I just gotta say, like, I really, really hope that the Indianapolis Colts, Chicago Bears themselves, and just trade up to get Levis when nobody else wants him.
Basically, if the quarterbacks go Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, the way that we both had it laid out on our boards,
Yeah.
we're going to be rich because we're going to
Yeah.
hit like six of these bets are related to what order the quarterbacks are going to go in. And then the last bet that I have already placed, and then we're going to place two live on the show. But I bet that the Lions will take a corner with their first pick. It's minus 150 right now.
Barring that their Anthony Richardson is not available with their first pick, I think it's pretty clear that they're taking Witherspoon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Witherspoon too. And you can bet on Witherspoon as first corner to go at like minus
Yeah.
240. But just betting the Lions to take a corner, and then if for some reason it's like Christian Gonzalez, you still hit it.
It won't be Gonzalez.
No, but it's like, or if you were worried it
Yeah.
was going to be like Joey Porter Jr. or whatever,
Yeah.
you minus 150, whoever it is, you nail it. That's what I have so far. Quick recap. Have Richardson to go before Levis, Levis to go over pick 6.5, over 1.5 running backs in the first round, Peter Skoronsky to go before Paris Johnson Jr., over 3.5 receivers in the first round, Richardson as the second quarterback off the board, Stroud as the third quarterback off the board, and then the Lions to take a corner. Those are the 8 that I placed before the podcast. Matt, we got 2 more units left. Where do you want to go with these draft bets?
I actually really like the Bills' position of their first pick is going to be defensive line. After what happened to them in the playoffs, you better believe they are going to try to shore up that defensive line.
Okay, I like that one. So the Bills first pick
Plus
to be a
500.
defensive lineman or an edge at plus 500. We'll take that.
Yeah. So my other one will be the Patriots' first pick being offensive line for plus 250.
Yeah, I like that one. As a Pats fan, I feel like that's where they're gonna go, even though it's not like the exciting pick I want them to make. Now, I was actually thinking about this earlier this week about compound mistakes, something I talk about a lot. The Patriots desperately need like a number one receiver or like some more weapons for Mac Jones. They've also been linked to like Bijan Robinson, which, my God, if they pick Bijan, I will lose it on this podcast. Like, I will absolutely lose. It's probably that is honestly probably the best pick for content is if they take Bijan. But the offensive line had a lot of issues last year. I know people kind of forget that because the offense was so bad because of Patricia. They need an offensive lineman because they messed up that Isaiah Wynn pick where they took him in the first round, tackle out of Georgia a couple of years ago. And when you miss picks like that and you don't keep a guy past his rookie contract, you end up having to address the same issue like 4 to 5 years later in the draft. So even if someone like JSN is there, I don't think the Patriots can take him because you have to make up for this mistake you made 5 years ago when you drafted Wynn.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks. It doesn't give you the freedom to be able to go out and do something like exciting or do something that could be seen as like a little bit more of a luxury pick because you have to address like this huge issue that you have. And that's O-line for them. So I'll be happy when they take an offensive lineman on draft day. But I will also mention to all of my Patriots friends and my dad on draft day that the reason they couldn't take someone more exciting is because they messed up the win pick.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that their pick is kind of in a spot where, unless there is a huge run early on tackles, that like one of the top 4 or 5 should be sitting there for them.
Yeah, but let's be honest about what the Patriots are going to do in this draft. We're going to get to 14. There's going to be like 4 guys on the board that I like. And I'm like, I'll text you and be like, oh, if we take like JSN, Brian Branch, Peter Skoronski, Dalton Kincaid, I'll be happy. Yeah. And they'll trade back. They'll trade back and they'll take someone who played at like the Fowler University of Central Kentucky, who I've never heard of. And in 3 years, he'll be my favorite player. So
hard to argue with it.
That's basically what happened with Kyle Duggar.
Yeah.
They traded back. They took Duggar, and it's like they're taking Kyle Duggar out of Lenore-Rhine. And I was like, that's not a school. There's no way that's a school. And they showed his like tape from Lenore-Rhine, which is a Division III college. And he's like a head taller and like a shoulder broader than everybody else. And it looked like, remember when Giannis got drafted and the only game tape was like him beating up short Greek men at the YMCA in Greece?
That was like he was still like only 6'2" at this point.
No, that was Kyle Duggar's tape at Lenore-Rhine. He, to Bill's credit, he's awesome. So
yeah, I mean, I liked Duggar a lot in that draft just because like his movement skills were really good and he's big, strong, fast, athletic. Like, there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, for sure. So last thing before we sign off, Homer corner here, because we're going to come back next week. We're going to do like the mock draft game with just me and Matt. What is your like dream scenario for the Lions with your 2 picks in the first round? What do you want to happen?
My dream scenario is Richardson finds his way to 6 and we take that so that we don't have to worry about the contract situation with Jared Goff. That's where everything falls apart. When you pay someone like Jared Goff market value, which is 45 to 50 million a year, that's when things get dicey. So that would be my first pick there. Although if he's not there, then I'm all in on Witherspoon. And then at 18, honestly, I kind of just want best player available. I'd be very happy with someone like Deonte Banks if we didn't take corner already. I'd also kind of be pretty happy with Donald Washington. I know it's a bit early for Lions fans and a tight end, but he's also basically a tackle, so I'm good with that.
What if the best player available is Bijan Robinson?
I wouldn't do it, but I can understand it.
The one thing I will say about...
I think I would be fine with it as soon as I saw him on the field in a game.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about Bijan, because we've been kind of mean to him on this podcast because he's a running back. It's
Yeah.
nothing against Bijan. He's just a
Yeah.
running back. Bijan Robinson is going to be awesome
Yep.
next year. He's going to be like a
Yeah.
fantasy stud, household name, highlights all over the place. He is
Yeah.
so good. He just happens to play running back.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. And I mean, drafting him, in all fairness, does solve the DeAndre Swift problem because this is the last year on his contract. He is the high upside running back on the roster. Nothing against David Montgomery. He's a very, very good running back. But I think we all know that uh, Swift and Robinson probably have a higher ceiling. And if he is on the field, he can only play like a game and a half a year where he's healthy enough to play at his potential.
Yeah, the one thing or I guess the other thing I'll say about Robinson is that I feel like he could easily be the best player at his position in this entire draft. Like he's better at being a running back than any other player in this draft is at being whatever their position is.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a better running back than Bryce Young is a quarterback. He's a better running back than Devin Witherspoon is a corner.
Yeah.
It's just that he's a running back.
Yeah, no, he is the player in this draft that is the best combination of high floor, high ceiling. And I mean, that's not to say that like he's like the ultimate like Madden made up prospects, but he's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
It's only got an 98 in speed.
My homer corner for what I want the Patriots to do, I want JSN or Brian Branch at 14. What I'm going to get is an offensive lineman at 14, and I'm fine with that. I'm not going to be mad if they draft an offensive lineman. What I don't want, and what I may also get, is for them to trade back. I think their problem the last couple of years has been that they've had a deep roster. They've had a pretty good roster, but they don't have the top end blue chip talent on the roster right now. They have guys that can become those players. Like I've talked about Christian Barmore in the past. I really like Jack Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, really good. I think like the NFL is getting to a point where you can get very talented players later in the draft, but that there's like a certain amount of guys near the top of the draft who are just like can't miss blue chip dudes. And I think that we need to be taking more of those guys. Like, I don't want to trade 14 for like 28 and 67. I want to draft the 14th best player in the draft or whatever it is. Like, I want a top end dude, whether it's an offensive lineman or a wide receiver or a safety, like I mentioned, Brian Branch.
Mm-hmm.
I want like real talent on this team. And I'm afraid that we're going to trade back and not get it in the first round.
I suppose that's better than, I don't know, taking Eric Ebron and instead of Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I mean,
or taking TJ Hawkinson instead of Ed Oliver.
It's not that you can't.
Deep.
Yeah, it's not that you can't miss at 14 because you can very easily.
Yeah.
But like, give me something to be excited about going into next season. Like, even if it's an offensive lineman, I'm going to be like, damn, like I watched a lot of Darnell Wright tape this offseason. He's going to be good. Like, I'm excited to see him play. I don't want Cole Strange again. Like, I can't do another year of Cole Strange right now. I need like some hype. I need like, once the draft is over, I want to be able to come on this podcast in the review episode and just be like, I'm excited for the Patriots draft. So that's where I'm at. But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Twitter at Fouled Out Sports, and you can find Matt on Twitter at Matador_defense. You can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It's a long name, but you can't miss it. Matt, you got any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, Christmas is almost here, so I'm giddy. Ironically, I go back to work day one of the draft. So maybe I didn't plan this out perfectly, but still.
It'll get you through the day, man. I said, I went to the office today, and I don't mind going to the office, but let me tell you, going to the office is so much more fun when you're coming off a Sacramento Kings playoff win.
Oh yeah.
Walking on sunshine into the office, and it's 6:30 in the morning, and everybody's like, "Why are you so happy?" I'm like, "The Sacramento Kings lit the beam last night, baby. Let's go." No one has any idea what I'm talking about because my office is in Metro Detroit. So
yeah, I cannot wait for the season to start. It's going to be a fun one, but it's going to be a painful wait for it to start.
It's going to hurt, but at least for the next couple months, we got playoff basketball. There's playoff hockey. The draft is a week from Thursday.
Yeah.
So it's coming up real quick. So we'll be back next week to do the mock draft game. Just me and Matt this year. I got a little lazy. And even though we had volunteers to do a mega mock, I can't. I have a 1-year-old at home. I can't be scheduling all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll be back for that next week. Then the draft is on Thursday, and we will be back the following week to do our draft recap. And then on to more Kings talk. Hopefully the Kings are still playing when we get through the draft stuff, and we'll be back into the NBA playoffs.
For sure.
So everybody enjoy the game. So we will see you next week. Right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Mom.